Topping today's news, an officer in hospital and a suspect dead following a shootout in Delaport. Monroe defends the government's failure to answer opposition questions. The Davis administration passes new laws to speed up court cases and demolition exercises carried out on North Eleuthera. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Jerino Saunders. This is your JCN Evening News, and it is a pleasure to have you join us. Her Majesty's coroner is leading investigations into a police-involved shooting that led to the death of an adult male earlier today in the western New Providence district. Police say around 1:30 a.m., officers from the Cable Beach Division were responding to reports of suspicious activity received from concerned residents in the area of Delaport when they encountered a lone male who was acting suspiciously. It is reported that as the officers were exiting the police vehicle, the male brandished a firearm and opened fire on the officers. In response, one of the officers produced his police service weapon and returned fire, fatally wounding the culprit. During the exchange of gunshots, one of the officers sustained a gunshot injury to his upper body and was transported to the hospital by emergency medical services personnel. He has been listed in stable condition. Police recovered from the suspect, who succumbed to his injuries on scene, a firearm along with an extra magazine containing ammunition. Police have yet to confirm, but it is believed that the deceased was also wanted by police. Investigations, again, continue there. Minister of National Security Wayne Monroe took time this morning while at the office of the Prime Minister to address a newspaper headline that claims Prime Minister Philip Davis dodged questions put to him by the opposition during the question and answer period in the House of Assembly on Wednesday. Mr. Monroe, who is leader of government business in the House, explains why the questions raised by the opposition were not answered at this time.
The issue that arises over time is that the questions themselves require input from technical persons. So, for instance, I'll give you an example of one of my questions. I've been asked to basically disclose what the security arrangement is for our borders. And so, as you may imagine, the technocrats can produce a full document that sets it all out. Some of it will relate to sensitive material from our partners, and you would have to get clearance from them to disclose it. Some of it you wouldn't disclose for tactical reasons and national security reasons, and you would have to take an assessment over that. And so the technical folks will have to do their work and produce a product for me. That's the case across all of the questions for all of the ministers.
As it relates to several questions put to Prime Minister Philip Davis, who stood to his feet on several occasions to say that he was not prepared to answer those questions, Minister Monroe gave this explanation.
Now, yesterday there were questions to the Prime Minister. They basically were tabled in February of this year. They require involvement from the staff of the Ministry of Finance, the leader of the opposition, who has been in government previously, would know what time of year this is. This is preparation for the budget. And so he would have been well aware when he tabled the questions that the folk in the Ministry of Finance would be engaged in the budget preparation. And so it's a cynical exercise. And so what you saw in the House yesterday was a cynical exercise by somebody who was basically campaigning to keep in office come the 1st of June.
Monroe was speaking of the Free National Movement's convention set for Saturday, June 1st, when party leader Michael Pintard is expected to be challenged by former leader Dr. Hubert Minnis. Mr. Pintard said the opposition wanted their questions to again be placed on the record for the benefit of the Bahamian public. As the government continues to implement its multi-pronged crime-fighting strategy, on Wednesday, Prime Minister Philip Davis led off debate in the House of Assembly on the Trial by Judge Alone 2024 and the Supreme Court Amendment Bill 2024. He said both bills are long-awaited and much-needed reforms to our justice system.
We all know that the backlogs and lengthy delays in our criminal justice system contribute to a culture of impunity. Put simply, too many criminals in our country think they can run out the clock. They are willing to take their chances in a justice system they don't believe will hold them accountable anytime soon, if ever. And unfortunately, long delays do undermine conviction rates. So we know that all too often, justice delayed results in justice denied. And we know that if we want criminals to fear the law, the consequences and repercussions of law breaking must arrive swiftly.
Prime Minister Davis says the option of the trial by judge will help to reduce the backlog of cases.
The other bill before us is the Trial by Judge Alone Bill 2024, which allows for trials on indictable offenses in which a verdict may be determined by a judge alone. The trial by judge alone bill gives the accused an opportunity to waive their constitutional right to a jury trial in favor of having a judge rule based on findings related to the facts and the relevant law. There are many reasons a defendant may prefer a bench trial. For example, in matters involving complex or technical facts or law, a defendant may prefer to have matters adjudicated by a judge rather than a jury of lay people. I emphasize that the constitutional right to a trial by jury remains. The constitutional right to a trial by jury remains. The defendant is simply gaining another right, and that is the right to choose for himself to be tried by a judge alone.
Despite a few concerns and questions, members of the official opposition also supported the bill. The Unregulated Communities Action Task Force from the Ministry of Public Works continues its assessment of the unregulated communities. Building Control Officer Craig Delancey revealed that the task force is progressing in its exercises on the island of Eleuthera, where demolition exercises took place this week.
Well, we're starting out in the North Eleuthera area, Blackwood. We know that there are about 200 plus homes, structures there. Many of them are unregulated or without any building permits, and we intend to deal with those at this time. We hope that we'll be able to complete Blackwood within 2 days' time.
Mr. Delancey says there were a number of code violations and safety hazards promoting the impending demolition exercises in the Blackwood community.
From our research and from our previous visit, many of the structures were not permitted, and that is one of the reasons why we are dealing with them, because there are also fire hazards. Some of the structures are too close to each other. Some are not built to the minimum code standards. And so we want to ensure that all construction throughout the Bahamas is being done under the Building Regulation Act regulations.
Officials say structures on Spanish Wells and Russell Island will also be demolished later this week, with approximately 25 eviction notices issued on both islands. And finally, in this segment, while the Unregulated Communities Action Task Force carried out demolition exercises on mainland Eleuthera, residents of Harbour Island are asking if the Action Task Force is also coming to that island. Minister of Works and Family Island Affairs, Clay Sweeting, says there are no current signs of shanty towns on Harbour Island.
There are more complaints in regards to immigration and the challenges with that there than I think in regards to the shanty town. Once if they gave the location, then they'll go make an assessment. But when they did the initial assessment, there wasn't any evidence of any shanty town in Harbour Island. They're probably that homes where persons of another nationality lives, but I wouldn't say it's a shanty town.
Minister Sweeting says they are awaiting feedback from the Department of Immigration in regards to concerns on Harbour Island and the large number of illegal migrants said to be living and working on that island. We'll take a break here. We'll be right back after these commercials.